Welcome to the Outside the Business Boxes podcast, where we're talking about how to ignite your business today for the future using systems for everything you do in your business to make your life, your employees' lives, and your customers' lives easier for you to ultimately enjoy your business and, of course, make more money. I'm your host, Chad Murray. Thanks for joining me here at Outside the Business Box podcast. I am Chad Murray. We're going to get in some trouble tonight. Listen at your own risk, because here we go. Tonight I have Dan Platta on. He is a guy I just met. He does his own little chat with Chad. His own, I'm not sure if he has a podcast. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But if you see in the back, and I'll read it real quick because it's easy to read, it says Bookkeeping, Beer, and BS. So I am here with Dan as tonight, and he also owns or is a partner of Blue Sky Services. We're going to get into a little bit what Dan is. And here we are, if you're on YouTube watching, here we are. I joined his motto of we're drinking beer. Hey, Dan.
How's it going, Chad? Thanks for having me. I'm glad you said we're going to cause some trouble or get in some trouble, because then now the ground has been laid that everybody already knows what to expect. We don't have to hold back.
It's my tagline. I actually have it. Copyright. I'm actually in the middle of waiting on my paperwork to get back as my own copyright or trademark. Trademark, not copyright. Trademark.
I'll follow that.
Yeah. Just go get yourself in trouble. And I did that because I always talk to business owners that are always at a point where they're just scared to do something. I'm at the point where it's just, hey man, just go get yourself in trouble. We'll bail you out. We'll get you out of it once you're in it. Let's just do it. And when I say it to them like that, it gives them the confidence to let's just say jump off the cliff.
When I got into the small business game, my business partner, I was in the corporate world for about a decade, and I was kind of hemming and hawing because I'm a finance nerd. I'm a little risk averse, right? And so I was going away from this, nothing that I loved, but like a cushy, good paying, good benefits corporate gig, where you know what you're gonna get, and whether you love it or not, it's what you expect it to be. And then I'm gonna go, do this entrepreneurial thing and make half as much money and work twice as many hours for who knows how long, right? And his line to me was always like, dude, what's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is I do it for a year and I'm like, nope, this sucks. I'm gonna go back and get my corporate gig back, and you'd be able to do that in 2 seconds in today's age. But 6 years later, I'm still here. So I guess the worst didn't happen. Here we go.
It's funny. You don't really meet, at least once you're become an entrepreneur, and you don't meet a lot of them that fail. They talk about the numbers, right? That they fail, but you really don't meet a lot of people. And there are guys that do. Don't get me wrong, but you don't meet a lot of them that fail. And once they start getting that mindset of I'll figure it out, right? I mean, or get there. Well, let's face it, there might be some more during COVID that failed. I mean, but
why do you think that is? Is it that we don't meet them because there's not an opportunity to meet them because they bowed out, or if they would have had the wherewithal to meet the right people, they wouldn't have failed maybe? Or is it just that everybody that fails is in the restaurant space? Because I feel like restaurants are coming. I don't know how they all get financing. Like, how do they get? If you're a banker and somebody comes to you and is like, "Hey, I'm going to open this little restaurant," like, who's the person saying yes to all these things?
I feel
like they turn over left and right.
As for where do these people go? I don't know. I mean, I've got one of my number one sales guy right now. I didn't realize till after he came to me, and he was actually on Chat with Chad, and it was just a month ago he told me that he had run his own business for a while, and then he said something super sweet. He's like, if I knew you back at the time, I'd probably still be in business. I'm glad he failed because he's awesome for me, what I mean, and he's doing great for himself, but still, I mean, and I don't know, but let's go back, let's retract a little bit. Who is Dan Platta?
Man, I'm just a beer drinking business nerd.
You're more than that. You're more than that. But what's your story?
Well, that's the summary, right? You got to sum it up.
That's the elevator pitch.
My elevator pitch. No, so like I said earlier, I spent like a decade in the corporate world, and I just had this entrepreneurial itch that I needed to scratch. And it wasn't quite a decade. I'd call it like 8 years, but it was either like fast tracking in the corporate world, which would be cool, but I worked in a multinational company. And so I had already like been on projects in China and was looking at projects in Central America and was like, I'm from Wisconsin. I'm just a beer drinking, like northern redneck that like loves business, but I like hunting and fishing about equally as much. It's like, man, going all over the world sounds cool for a little bit, but at the end of the day, like it's hard to beat the Midwest for the stuff that I like to do. And I had a business partner. Well, wasn't a business partner at the time, but I had a good buddy who was actually my financial advisor at the time, who kind of left that world. He worked at Northwestern Mutual, left that world and said, I'm going to go buy small businesses. And either he looked at it from an investment standpoint, like I'm going to buy small businesses that are broken, turn them around, fix them and sell them, or turn them around and find an operator if we have an operator, and then let that operator kind of run with it. And so I kind of just raised my hand and was like, hey, I'm a finance nerd, so let me know when I can like help value some of these businesses or put together the business model or do the bookkeeping, whatever it is. And eventually we just stumbled across a business that started to get some mojo and the model was working well. And I said, well, hell, maybe I should just come and be the operator, because it's going to be 20 years in the corporate world before they put me in charge of one of their businesses. Right. How about I start in charge of one of ours, in a couple of years. And so we kind of, it worked out for my family. My wife was doing her MBA program, and then she has the boring corporate job and I get to do all the fun stuff. But yeah, so I started running a window cleaning and maid service company. Started in 2016, but I had been like helping with some nerdy bookkeeping stuff before that for all of our businesses. And now, we still have 4 or 5 different operating companies. I call them window cleaning, pressure washing, maid service. So we got skin in the game, if you will. But as a result of running these multiple businesses, we started doing some recruiting and marketing and bookkeeping for other home service companies that have all the same types of problems we have, right? Capacity, demand, or keeping track of it all. And since I'm the finance nerd, I focus mostly on our bookkeeping business, and I kind of CFO, the rest of the other parts of our business. I've learned not to try to be the operator of them. I tried to for a long time, but we're spread out across different states, and operating them from one central hub doesn't work a whole lot when you need to be like out hands-on doing the thing. So I've got either really good business partners or really good managers, and I just help them with their finances, help them with their coaching and decision-making, and let them run the business. And I kind of stay behind the scenes and make my nerdy podcast and bookkeeping beer and BS show.
And so that's how I actually met Dan a couple weeks ago. As you all know, I have Service World that just started up that group not long ago. Haven't had time to work on it a whole bunch. We got like 50 people in it right now. And Dan somehow, through a high school not girlfriend, but a girlfriend of mine, we didn't even know each other. We didn't even know each other. And all of a sudden,
I'm not sure how I got into the group, but I'm there and I shared my thing.
Yeah, he shared his bookkeeping beer and BS show, which is like Chat with Chad, on there. And I just got done doing Chat with Chad. I went in there as it was downloading. I was waiting for it. I went on and I saw him live. Laughed my ass off. It was being part of his show. He even commented on me. It was like, at the end of it, I said, we have to know each other. And so then we've had a couple talks now and enjoying our company. And I think as we did all that, I think when we talk about the way you do your numbers is similar to the way I do mine. I don't look at QuickBooks. We have all that. I don't mess with that because that doesn't help me run my business. Because it doesn't tell me yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I mean, it'll tell me yesterday of last month or maybe even last quarter, but it doesn't help me run next quarter or this quarter, and maybe on a yearly thing it does. But I'm the manager that manages now. I'm the operator, owner that manages now. What have you done for me lately when it comes to numbers? Mm-hmm. I'm all about, what do we have up today? What do we have up this week? What do we have up next week and the week after? Because what we did's in the past. I can't fix that. Mm-hmm. And if I manage it this week and next week, well, last week worked out, right? Because I just managed it. And in the past, if it could have been worked out, I would do it. So like when I take on a new entrepreneur, whether in the chimney industry or wherever, one of the first things I teach them is is not so much know your numbers like you want to know them, because it's baby steps to really get to know what they really are.
Yep.
Is you need to know what your sales are and production. Even sales is actually secondary. What's your production?
Yep.
So like you can have your guys go and sell whatever, but I just had a client last week. They have nearly $80,000 on the books in the next 2 months. Lost money last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what? Why? And it was just like, well, this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, that makes no sense to me. I mean, and whatever the excuse is, it's like, okay, well, we mismanaged that. Okay. And I always take ownership in that. We have to not let that happen ever again. If you and they just lost a little bit, but we're not in business to break even or lose a little bit. We're in business to make money. And yes, you can say we're all value, we're all that, and of course we are. But at the end of the day, if you're not making money, what are you working for, really?
Money is how our clients express to us that we added value to their lives, right? Like it's a token of good deed. If they're not willing to pay us money for the thing that we do, then the thing that we do is not valuable. That's how we express value in our society. It's the best way to do it. I think,
and I love that value. That's a great way to say. Keep going. I don't know. I'm agreeing.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, in the simplest of all terms, for all of our businesses, whether you're doing chimney sweeps, pressure washing, mowing lawns, cleaning houses, laying garage floors, no matter what you're doing in the home service industry, there's a super simple, magical mathematical formula: capacity equals demand. And if you can make that formula be true, life is pretty good and you make money. If your capacity is too high and you don't have enough demand for that, meaning like if you have too many workers and not enough customers, life sucks. The workers' paychecks are small. That actually usually results in the exact opposite happening, because your employees quit. And then all of a sudden you're like way short-staffed and you have too many customers for the amount of employees, right? But if you have too much demand and not enough employees, that sucks too. Your customers are pissed. People are cutting corners and rushing, and you're losing customers and they're bailing and skipping their appointments. So like, to the extent that we can keep capacity and demand consistent and equal and have that perfect, like you said, that perfect production planning, we can damn near guarantee that we're like printing money. And the beautiful thing about that is if we can guarantee that every time we go out and do work, we get to keep X. And this is like the bookkeeping, nerd and me coming out. If we know that when we go out to do a job and we get to keep a certain percentage, 50%, 60%, whatever it is, all of a sudden it makes it really clear what we want to invest in next, right? Are we going to invest in more marketing? Are we going to invest in a new office person? Are we going to invest in a new office space? Are we going to invest in like more recruiting to go get more employees? We have all these investments that we can make, but it's really shaky knowing what we're going to invest in if we don't even know how much money we're going to make when we go out and do the damn job, right?
We have a ton of operators, Dan. We have a ton of operators, chimney company guys that are booked out 6 months, and I'm not talking. We have the supply and demand issues. But even before the supply and demand issues, they were still booked out 6 months. And so, or maybe at least 4. And one of the things that, some of the larger companies try to preach, it's like, you're not hitting your correct capacity demand. You're way booked out. Mm-hmm. You should be investing in more people to get this down to less than a month so that you can build and everyone's always, some people are just scared to scale. We're not even talking. Well, here's the thing. It's not even scaling. It's you're booked out 6 months. And I hate to say it like this, and I'll just say it as really rough and gruff terms, like I always said. You're really almost running a shitty business because you're
just running a job at that point. You're running a job.
Right. And you're not, and then they always say, well, I can't find the time, or I don't want to scale, or they have something to the fact of whatever. And it's like, well, you actually have enough jobs that if you got helpers in our industry, we're not like where you just show you a squeegee and show you do a window and in a day or two, you can go clean a window. We are a little more advanced than that. However, with that said, you can train someone to do some easy stuff in our industry and get caught up and get what we call, I've invented the idea of calling easy truck. You take an easy truck and you train these guys how to do something easy.
Yep.
And then
start with the lowest hanging fruit.
Send them out there to make some money, and then build them from there and do that. And the guys that have listened to me have gone from really one truck to 5 or 6 trucks in 3 or 4 months, and they did it when there was a truck shortage. They did it when there was all this, and so yeah. But I love that what you just said, capacity and demand. I'm gonna steal that. That's now part of my vocabulary.
One of the tricky things is, like, I get mathematically, I understand the desire to not want to scale, because when it's just us, our profit margins are so much higher because we don't need the marketing, right? Like, referrals are usually enough to feed that business. We don't need a person in the office. Maybe we have like a virtual system, but we don't really need the admin staff. We don't need to have a physical location. We don't have to pay rent or utilities because we can just run it out of our house. We don't have recruiting, employee engagement. Our repairs and maintenance are usually lower because guys aren't effing up all of our stuff, right? So I get some desire to stay small, but we have this massive trade-off that we trade freedom because there's no backup, right? If we sprain our ankle, our business is like, it's just messed up, right? The business can't make money without us being the hamster on the wheel. And while it makes great money when we are the hamster on the wheel, the minute we get off and go on vacation or want to do anything, nobody's answering the phone. It's not a business, right? The job isn't making money with you out on the job type of thing. The scary thing that I see, and I've presented on it, and I have some graphs that show it. What usually happens is guys get booked out and they start to scale, and then all of a sudden they pay employees to go do the work, and so and now their paycheck is gone, right? They never really connected the dots, but when it was just them doing the work, they got the paycheck. Now when they got to pay somebody else to go do the work, they don't get the paycheck anymore. So however, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 a year, like, that's no longer your money. And now, and that person's going to do a worse job for sure, right? Because they're not you, and that's okay. Like, they're going to do a worse job. Get over it. You also need a person in the office now. Now you need more marketing to go sell, because now you actually need a second person on the truck to like pick up their slack. And you don't want these yahoos coming to your house every day. All of a sudden it gets really expensive. Your revenue goes up by maybe like 50%, but your costs go up by like 100%. Yeah. And while you're doing more work, you're working twice as hard to train these guys up, and they don't know shit, and blah, 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 blah. And you're making like half as much money, if not even less than that. And guys like dip their toes into that, and they're like, nope, no way. Why would I work twice as hard and deal with all these guys' problems, right? The minute you have employees, you have all their problems too, not just your problems, all of their problems. And so these guys like back out of scaling, right? But they jump into it without knowing that that's going to happen. I think if you jump into scaling your business and you're like, yep, this is what happens the minute you start scaling, and this is like this trough, and you got to get through it. And once you get through it, then you get the freedom. But first you got to just like sacrifice, and beat your head against the wall for a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3, depending on how many guys quit on you. And maybe you don't have the leadership skills. And I think that's where a lot of guys don't realize, the minute you start doing that, it doesn't matter how good you are at chimney sweeping anymore. It doesn't matter how good you are at working with the customer in the field. It doesn't matter how good you are at the task. You're now a math person, and you're a people person. It doesn't matter. The task doesn't matter anymore. You're playing your KRAs, your KPIs, or whatever you want to call them, and you're a leader. And that's your job. And if those aren't the jobs you want, if you don't want to be a math person and a leader, then don't scale your business. Because the minute you start scaling the business, like, the task is no longer the job that you have. Your job just, got flipped upside its head.
I can't believe how many light bulbs are going off above my head right now. I mean, honestly, I've never heard anyone explain it like that, Dan. And it's so true. All the people I went to help that failed, that quit me coaching them, was because they end up not having the skills to be the leader. Mm-hmm. And even though they may have the money to do it, they have no desire to actually go through the pain to do it.
Yep.
I mean,
leadership is hard, man. Leadership, I discounted it forever, but it's the hardest damn thing. There's no magic formula. There's no process. I mean, people have different ways of doing it, but leadership is effing hard.
And that's why I train so much intent. That's why I call it intentional culture. Mm-hmm. And because everyone has a culture, you're going to have a good or bad one, or medium, or whatever. But when I found, and everyone on the podcast has heard this, and probably, they're like, oh, here goes Chad again, talking about culture, because, geez, does he talk about it all the time? Well,
You better.
you don't get to a $4 million company, and literally last year we were not going to break 3 million. And because we started working on intentional culture, we just barely missed 4. I mean, we were right at 4 million, just under it. And right now we're already up 200,000 from last year with what we had lost over last year. We're at like a $450,000 swing in the first quarter from last year. So we're going to hit 5 this year. We're almost positive. Now, all I keep telling everybody is I don't have more customers than I did last year. I didn't have more customers. Well, I did have more customers in 2020, but when you take 2019 versus 2021, we almost did the exact amount of customers. Yet we did another $400,000. It was just because of the way it was just because of the people. The people, the way we lead them, and the way we do the intentional coach. I showed you a video. Have you thought about that video since I talked to you?
Yeah, I was debating if I should show that or just like create one myself so that it's me. I was debating, like, I like the idea of it. And actually my partner in Minneapolis has a video that he shows of him going through like our core values. It doesn't have like the music and stuff behind it. It's not quite as captivating, right? But yeah, we got to find a way to incorporate that. I love it.
By the way, audience, it was the You Matter video, which I don't think I've even played for you guys, but it is this video that I tear up when I watch it, and I have now watched it seriously 30 times.
Yeah, it took you like 20 seconds to compose yourself to talk back when we were on our call the other day.
It did, because I've actually had employees call me about it. It's not the video. The first time I watched it, I didn't tear up at all. But I've had actual reactions from my own employees that said how much that video affected them. I actually just had a guy 3 weeks ago call me about it. It actually said, when we played that video last fall, he still every day thinks of that video when he turns the truck in his keys, and says it was thanking me. And it was like that kind of shit. It's that manly hug thing that gets me crying. And that's kind of stuff that I actually just fall in love with. What we do with the people. I mean, it is. You really are. So back to what you said. When I'm dealing with people who either talk about they don't want to scale, have failed at scaling, or when I go to work with them and it just doesn't seem to be working, or they seem to have the heart to try, but then they give up. No matter what I do, lead the horse to water, I can't make them drink thing. And I can tell you, there's something about the people that all fit those 4 categories. They don't want to do it. They don't want to be a leader.
Yeah. They like the task, and they want to do the task, right? And they want to be the best at the task. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think there's like a place for that person. Just make sure you have really good disability insurance. Yeah. Right. Because if you get hurt, your family's in trouble.
Well, everybody knows I have that story. So, and Mark Stoner has that story. There's other guys out in our industry that have fallen off. I got an appendix rupture. I went bankrupt. Mark Stoner we had to restart his company from falling off a roof. We have that story in our industry. And I know other people that have this story where they were if they may not have been a single operator, but the business depended on them, and they were still climbing roofs, and boom, fell off a ladder, whatever, and then they lose everything. Well, I went and restarted my business after I never really stopped it, but I mean, we restarted legally under Master Services 18 years ago, and my whole goal, not quite out of the gate, it took me about a year to kind of get to this goal, was to build this business to where I can walk away from operations. And I still don't. That's a misconception. I am still at Master Services, but I don't go to work there. I don't even have an office there. I literally just talk to management. I only deal with people, and I only deal with our apps and our systems and the
Yep.
leadership. That's it. That's
Yep.
what I do. That's what I like to do, and I built my business that way. So here's the second part. I don't know if you knew. I don't know if I told you this now. I know my audience knows this. I was in the hospital all of September for COVID.
All of
Almost died.
September.
I
Damn.
almost died, and I wasn't able to come back to work till almost November, around November, and I was still super weak. My business never skipped a beat. Matter of fact, when I was in COVID, I only talked to my general manager once. When I was in the hospital, I only talked to him once. They are scaling and running it and doing a fantastic job without me. Totally different than what happened to me 18 years ago, right?
Mhm.
And so I built the business to do that. And I help all these people try to do the same thing, at least get it to where it'll still operate. I mean, that's your first hard goal, is to do like you said, get that capacity down to the right, to everything else, and it goes from there. So you said you coach people. Have you coached people at that, through that level, through that experience?
I mean, I feel like that's usually when somebody needs the most coaching, because it's the scariest, man. Like, it's scary when all of a sudden you think you're gonna you run this business, you get this result that produces this much money. And so logically, we all just say, if I just do more of this thing, like if I do twice as much of this thing, I'm gonna make twice as much money. And it's really freaking scary when you make half as much when you do twice as much. And so like there's some coaching and just like the psychology of it, like, hey, it's okay, you're not failing, you're investing, you're making investments, right? You don't get the paycheck anymore. All these other people that you hired to like push you through this level get the paycheck, and it means you got to take one step back to take two forward. And right now you're in the step back, and that's super scary. So part of it is just the psychology. Part of it is, how do you do it as fast as possible so you stay in that spot for
Right.
as short a time as possible, right? I was talking to a home cleaner today who's signing up for our bookkeeping service, and she was like, I still do all these things in my business because I'm the best at them, and she is really good at them, right? The going to meet with new clients and doing the first clean for the clients. And I was like, look, that's great that you're good at it. That sucks for your business. You cannot grow a business that's dependent on you having to go out there, because you cannot go out to those places. You can't be everywhere at once. You can't grow a business like that. The worst businesses that I've ever bought from people, and the worst businesses that I've ever owned and been a part of, are the ones where it was dependent on a person.
Right.
And I've been that person. I made the mistake plenty of times of trying to be that person because I thought it had to be me. Like, I didn't want to disservice my employees by asking them to do their job, so I would do their job for them, and I would make it all dependent on me, and then I'd be miserable. They would usually be miserable, right? Even though I thought I was doing them a favor, and our customers would be hung out to dry, because if I was gone, nobody could solve their problems for them, because I cornered myself as being the only guy that could solve the damn problem. So
Right.
I've been there. It's scary, but you got to get through it.
The quickest is the best. I went through it quick. I mean, I literally went from 2 trucks to nearly 6 in 1 year, and that's how I did it. I made sure that I just took the chance and went out and bought 4. This is in 2008, right after whatever happened to me. 2008, I went out and bought 4 Dodge trucks. I already had 2, and I went and just put people in them. I mean, and yeah, I know everyone in the chimney business is like, oh, we can't do that today. You're right, we can't. But back then, I could, and that's how I went through that $1 million to $1.5 million stage to bust through it, and then I stayed between 2 and 3 million for 15 years.
Yep. You hit these sweet spots, though. You hit sweet spots where it's like, I could hang out here for a while, right? Like, I'm profitable. I have enough freedom. I don't have to be there every day. I can still go on vacation and know that the business is working. And we get in a comfort zone for a while. And then eventually the entrepreneurial part of us takes back over, and they're like, but what if, right? Like, what if I pushed it to 5 million, right? Like, what would that take? What other people do I need? What would it mean? What would I have to do? So yeah, I'm with you. Like, the faster you can go, the better. 2 trucks is usually, in almost every industry, 2 trucks is usually the worst spot to be.
Yeah.
Because you have all you need the infrastructure now. You need the marketing to fill them up. You've got, 2 to 4 to 6 guys, depending on how you run your crews. You need somebody in the office. Like with 2 trucks, you need all the damn infrastructure, but you only have 2 trucks worth of revenue. With 6 trucks, you still need all the damn infrastructure. You need a little bit more, but not that much more. There's a couple more parking spots, and that's about it. But you can build better systems and processes when you have that many people. And hell, you don't even need to be the one building them when you have that many people. And so like all of a sudden you start getting more and more and more cost effective and more predictable because you build those systems and processes. Usually 2 is the worst. And I talk to a lot of people that are like, I just got to get that second truck on the road and then I'll be good. And I'm just like, careful. Like, know that if you stay there, you're going to be making less money than you are now. You'll have a little less risk because you can leave and the business will still make some money, but it's not going to make as much money for you as it does right now because you're not going to be the one out doing the job and getting the paycheck.
Right.
So
my biggest I'm in a sweet spot now, which we're scaling up to 5. And my first real sweet spot was 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
I had between 4 and 6 trucks, depending on the year, the time of year. I think I ran 4 in the summer and 6 in the winter. And I wasn't one of them. Playing golf on Fridays, every Friday. Mm-hmm. Kept my phone on though, because I was the tech support, and my wife and my mom ran the call center, and so my mom, I did pay my mom well. She came from banking, but my wife and I owned the company, so my wife didn't get any paycheck. And then and then in the wintertime we would hire a full part-time person in the call center to help them, and that was it, and maybe a helper or two. Mm-hmm. And this is before we were had our own shop making caps. Or maybe I think we did right about then is when we started that. But it was like I was making pretty good money. And it was when all of a sudden we just organically grew to 2.5. And we kind of stayed there for, like I said, years. And then 2.5 was weird because it was like I needed 10 trucks in the winter and back to 4 in the summer. Yep. And that was so hard because the phone calls were coming in, right? Wintertime phone calls. My call center was slammed and booking us out for a long time. And it was just like, if I only had 3 more trucks, 4 more trucks. And that's how I busted through. Finally, I just said, I'm buying the trucks. And I just finally bought, I don't remember, what was it, 2014 or 15 or 16. I just went out and got up to 20 trucks. I just went nuts.
Push it.
I did. I went fuck it and just bought a bunch of trucks. We opened up our Houston market. And long story I don't talk about much. We also had Atlanta and Denver going, which were total busts. I did not know how to run a company at that point. The only reason Houston survived is my best friend that I grew up with was running it, and he was just a sucker and just took and believed everything I said and stayed there.
Dude, so, I'm like living proof of how hard it is running disconnected locations. It's not anything like running a location. It was the biggest mistake that I've made, just like assuming that I could lead 4 or 5 businesses from where I'm at in Minneapolis. I failed at it. I now have the leaders that I need in those places, but you don't just find people that can run a business overnight. It takes a long time to find somebody that can run a business and that you can like lead, and you don't need them to have all the skill sets, right? You kind of need them to not. You need them to have like the right grit and like a no drama attitude and just be able to be open-minded and learn, and you can like help mold them. But man, that's a hard ask. Tons of grit, open-minded.
That was Brian. You just nailed him on the head, Brian. I'll jump off the cliff for you. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I'm just like, let's do this. Moving down to Houston. It's funny. I was trying to get into this mixed group with a bunch of the big dogs and whatever. And everyone, I know everyone's listening to this podcast. There's one that was very heartfelt to me. I didn't get in. And the reason I didn't get into the mixed group, for whatever or not, was one big performance. We did breakout groups to help this guy that we were at their facility to talk about. He wanted to move to another city, So we had a couple other guys that were in there, and one of the big dogs was in there, and they're all talking to him how to scale, and then they come to me. I was chomping at the bit to tell my story of how I failed in Atlanta. Well, I got done telling the story, and they're like, "Okay, well, what happened?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" I just told them what happened, right? And I'm like, "Well, it just no one was buying. I didn't really have an answer." And they're like, "Well, that you didn't tell us anything. You just told us the story." And I'll tell you, it took me months to figure out why, and it was like on my mind so much. Why did I fail? Because
Mhm.
I'm not a guy. So
Yeah,
normally when I
you know
fail,
the how. You know the how.
I
You just
did
don't
know the
the
how.
what.
I didn't
Yeah.
know the why.
Yeah.
And why I didn't study the why? Because I don't look back when I fail. I say fuck it and I move on and I go.
Yeah.
I just in that case, it was one of those get out things. So I got out and I never analyzed it. So here I'm getting called out on this deal and pretty much kind of being just told that, wait, your performance sucks so bad in that we're just kind of scared of you. They didn't say that, but that's kind of how I kind of took it.
Yeah.
So I sat there and analyzed it, and I even talked about it on a podcast a month later. It's like I didn't have any. I had no people skills, hired completely wrong people, and didn't train them for shit.
Mm-hmm.
Total recipe for success.
Yep.
And it was as successful as I put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it failed. And so, I mean, that's exactly why it did. So I want that breakout group again so bad because I could write a novel on everything I did wrong.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
with that.
And to what you just said about like hiring the wrong people, not training them for shit, it goes back to the intentional culture that you said. The hardest part about having those locations is you can't control the culture as well. So you need to be that much more intentional. I like when I'm talking to our leaders, yeah, I'm asking them finance related questions, but really what I'm digging into is like, what part of our culture is going wrong that's causing us to have these money problems? Like if our culture is right, the money flows. The business doesn't run itself because culture is a hard thing to control, and like it takes constant leadership and constant management. Right. But like we know what the damn business model is. We know all the numbers. We know exactly how to make it work. So if it's not working, the only reason it's not working isn't because gas prices went up. Yeah. Like we can just change the prices to our clients. The only reason it's not working isn't because our turnover is high. Like we can just go hire more people. Like, and if our turnover is high, we know why it is. It's because our culture sucks. It's because we don't have a job that people want. Like literally every problem in our business just comes back to there's a reason why our employees aren't bleeding blue. If they're not bleeding blue, then we're going to have problems because they're the ones that run our business, not us. It's up to us to like educate them and give them the freedom to like go perform awesomely. But if we have a job that they don't want, then it's on us.
So it's really funny you talk about that. So intentional culture, but here's the model for chimney companies. Tell me if this is any different for window washing or maid service. So, and I know the numbers will be a little bit different because you guys don't have intentional salesmen like we do or inspectors. But like for us, 2 inspectors for 1.5 trucks. Well, excuse me, 1 inspector for 1.5 trucks. Okay. Generally is what you'll have. So if you have 2, well, you need 3 trucks to support them. And honestly, and then because of the way you're going to scale, because you're going to have the really hard jobs in chimney stuff, like relinings and rebuilds and stuff like that, you're really going to need 2 more trucks to fulfill the hard stuff. And if you're on the East Coast, you're going to have a lot of sales that are appliance stuff. So you need 5 trucks to go from 1 to 2 trucks to scale. You got to buy 3 trucks right off the bat when you start working for me.
Yeah,
and that freaks people out.
Yep.
They freak out, and it's just like, well, you're gonna need to separate the shoot and eat and kill your own thing. Sales has got to be sales. You got to train the guy to just inspect and sell off the inspections, and then you have your guys that are gonna have to do all the work. And so it's like I'm training. I have a sales training program I have now for chimney sweep employees that go out and do this, not owners, employees. Of course, owners could take it if they want for masonry. And one of our objections that I tell them about, the objection is, are you the one going to be doing the work? And the way I train the guys is like, Make it a joke. Even though you might be the best guy that could be mixed mortar, whatever there and stuff, laugh and say, you don't want me working on your chimney.
Yeah,
No
why?
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no way.
The guy with the clipboard? You want the guy with the clipboard?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, you're gonna take your backup quarterback and throw him in the fourth quarter to like do the game-winning drive? I don't think so. You don't want the guy holding the clipboard to have to go make the game-winning drive. You want your friggin' starting quarterback in there.
It's the perfect rebuttal, right? Yeah, cheers to that.
Yeah. I'm the one holding the clipboard. That's why I'm here.
I've never heard the clipboard one. I'm gonna use that, but that's great. I mean, because it's so true. So it's like then trying to get them to separate the eat to kill method to the sales and install method. There's a little time with that, but I mean, people. I think with the value that we've been talking about so far today in this podcast episode is that scale throughable from essentially a solo two person manure, whatever. That sounds like shit. Sounds like a real shit scenario, right? And so to get to the 5 to where you can have exactly what Dan said, freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is such, I've heard it described like that, but the way you said it really rang true to me. And I think a lot of my listeners and stuff is that everyone's trying to get clarity, trying to figure out a way to not have to be the man. But when you really look at it, it's all about freedom. It is really all about freedom. Now, freedom to at least do essentially what you want to do, probably when you want to do it. I mean, let's face it, we still run businesses. And if you haven't quite walked out like I mean, here I am. I created a complete freedom where I can do everything I want, started a coaching business. Now I'm a slave to my own business. I'm like my worst. I'm like, I need to hire myself. I'm so busy.
I have tons of freedom. I spend yesterday morning working and this morning working and this afternoon working. And now you could call this work, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, it was by choice, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm traveling. I mean, you and I are both going to be in Vegas for different conferences this week, but like I'm traveling this week. So I had the freedom to be like, well, let's just do a podcast on a Sunday night. And then I had a sales call today because I knew I wasn't going to get it in this weekend or this week. So it's like, yeah, I got midday Sunday. Let's just jump on a Zoom and we'll do a quick bookkeeping demo and knock it out, right? You just get to choose when you want to do stuff. You aren't forced into having to do it.
Well, there is a difference. So let's talk about that. Being an operator is not what me and you are now. I enjoy what I do. So I'm like, I'm a slave to my coaching business. Don't get me wrong. I work 4 days a week doing it, and I almost do it sun up to sundown those 4 days between listening to a couple shows and doing my own show. I'm a slave Monday through Thursday to it. But I'm also the owner's slave. I love it. I would not trade what I do at all.
You want to be on the truck. You want to stay on that truck.
Well, I want to stay on the coaching truck, not on. Yeah. Don't ever put me on a roof again. If I never put a harness on again, well, I never ever did that because we just started harnesses this last year. But I don't. I mean, I will go on roofs again eventually at times. But golly, I enjoy the business side of helping people, and I'll enjoy the leadership side of my chimney business. Mm-hmm. I don't care. It was like Simon Sinek says, and I've been listening to this, and I heard Stoner say it on his podcast, and I'd already heard it from Simon Sinek. It was, what is a CEO is job? I mean, a CEO was talking to somebody, and he said, he was asked, what's your biggest concern? Or, he goes, oh, it's my clients, it's the customers. And it's like, Simon's like, well, that's bullshit, because when's the last time you talked to a client? You don't talk to a client. Your gig is your employees and your culture. It has nothing to do with the clients. Let them take care of the clients. And that's the life I love to live. That's the life I want to live, and that I have built for myself. And so trying to train people, or I don't like saying train people, trying to assist people to get there.
You got to lead them there. You got to lead them to have their own idea in that space. I think it's funny you brought up the client thing. I had a home cleaning client of ours in our Cleveland market, right? I'm in Minneapolis. A client of ours in our Cleveland business somehow had my email. I think from like 5 or 6 years ago when I was like helping out our customer service team or something. She's been our client forever. So she emailed me to like tell me how like upset she was about how our customer service person handled something. And I like read the email and I was like, our person freaking nailed it. I don't know what this lady was just losing her marbles. I don't know what her deal was. And exactly to your point, my email back was, and I like copied my manager and our customer service person on it. I was like, Billy, Nikki, you guys did freaking phenomenal. Keep doing exactly everything you're doing. I 100% trust you, believe in you, and I will always have your back. Mrs. Jones, I'm not sure what your problem is. I think my team crushed it, and I will always have their back. Sorry that you don't get to be our customer anymore. See ya. Like, I don't like customers aren't important, right? I mean, like they're important, but only to the extent that my employees can go do a good job for them, and my employees want to do a good job for them.
Right.
Our customers pay us like this much. Our employees make us this much, right? Our employees are so much more valuable than our customers. We want to do a good job for them, but I don't lose sleep if we lose a customer, but I sure as hell lose sleep if we lose an employee.
Boy, what you need to coin that. The so we've really been on a tear getting a lot of reviews, and we have a new review app, and we're getting a ton of reviews. And my daughter Madeline was when I said I had a company, that her and her husband were over here right before we started recording this, and she's my social media kind of my assistant, and she was telling me she had 3 reviews to respond to from this weekend. They're all good. These are all 5-star. But she said a couple weekends ago we had 2 bad ones, and I had read them already, but I read them because I get the email. Yeah. And she was telling me about one of them, and I'm just like, who gives a shit? I said it was a guy that wrote nothing. It was a 1-star only review, not a word, just 1 star. And she's telling me she went in there to research the guy, and she did all this, and she's like, she called up the crew, she called up the sweep educator I had, the sales guy, and just all over trying to find out what she should write for a review. Everything was perfect. Everyone's just like, we don't fucking know. This lady's hi, I guess, was a guy. I mean, the guy's hi, I guess, because everyone's like, no idea.
Yeah,
and she's like, Dad,
what exactly what we said we were going to do that they agreed to, and when we left, they said, "Thank you so much, you great," right? And then they left us a 1-star review with no words.
I'm sorry, there was no crew involved. It was just an inspection, and it was a high bid. And I just said, honey, the guy just obviously doesn't like the fact that our technology blew his ass away, and he had probably, if I recall, an $8,000 bid. We condemned. We don't condemn, but we say don't use your fireplace anymore because it's not up to the codes and standards. And this one had some rusting issues all the way through, where you could literally burn through the attic, or I don't remember exactly what it was, but it had issues. Yeah. And I'm just like, honey, just write on here. I mean, actually, just leave it alone. I said, I have a Removify. By the way, anyone out there who has a bunch of shitty reviews, that a lot of them are crappy, go to removify.com. And they'll charge you $400 or $500 to take them down, but they do all the research and let them give you the sales pitch on them. But I'll tell you, I've had 4 reviews in the last 3 months get taken off my thing. And what's cool, just to tell you a quick story, which I thought is kind of funny, Google's worldwide, right? Well, some of like Australia shares our Google. Like a lot of Google, they don't share the same Google. So when you Google something in Russia, you're not typically seeing American results, right? Well, Australia shares American Google. So anything that is against Australian rules in America, Google will take them down. So like the 3 of the 4 I got taken off were like some Australian fucking rule that made them come down. Well, one of them is in Australia, a bad review has to come from the client, not from the kid, not from the grandkid, not from the neighbor, or whatever. It has to come from the paying client. Well, I think all 3 of the ones I had were sons or daughters bitching about how we scammed mom or some shit like that, which is all bullshit. You don't scam
Yep.
anybody. But they all got taken off. It was great. And so and you do pay
that.
like $400 or $500 to get them down, you know. But hey, that's $400 to remove some horse shit review. In my opinion, I'll do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it if I was at like a 4.8 or a 4.9 already, because I feel like I'd rather be at a 4.9 than a 5. Like, it makes me seem human.
Yep.
But maybe like some of the reviews, just the shit they write, it's just like some of the bad reviews I want to leave up because it justifies that we're not the crazy ones, because everybody can smell that person has lost their marbles. But like a 1-star with no comment, that one I'd want to remove, right? Because whoever sees it can't tell that person's stupid, right? So it's like if the text that the person wrote makes them like incriminate themselves, then I'm like, oh, leave it. I want people to search our 1-star reviews and see that nutbag with that review, because you can just smell that they're nuts, right? But there's certain 1-star reviews you want out of there, or if you're at like a 4.6 and you can take a few out and you're at a 4.8 or a 4.9.
We're at a 4.6. We had a slippage of our review system of our guys getting reviews to the limit of getting bad reviews. So I'd say 2020 and part of 21 was kind of this ebb and flow of 5 good ones, 1 bad. 5 good ones, 4 good ones, 1 bad. It's like that. We never had that before. We're a bigger company now, than we were back then. And so, you know what? And I have always talked about this, and you nailed it on the head. 5-star only review companies, that is a total, and there are good ones out there, but I'll tell you, that just seems weird to me too. I mean, I'd rather look at a 4.9 than a 5. However, it is what it is. But when you read the replies to a lot of these 1-stars that we get, and I actually have the story, and I'll tell it again. We had this lady that 1-star review wrote a book, and I read it, and I knew from what she said, she was dead on balls accurate. We messed it up. I knew it. And sure enough, actually, I was running the company at this time. So this was before I retired from operations. So I called her up, and I said, "Hey, this is Chad Murray," you know. And now the part that I didn't like about her review is she never called to talk to us.
Yeah,
she never gave me the opportunity, right, to fix anything. It was, we done wrong. Blah, let's just go murder them online, right? And so get the claws out, you know, vengeful. And so, I call her up. I say I'm Chad with Master Services. You know, it's always funny how you're kind of expecting them to be the witch that they sound like. Sweetest people in the world, right? Oh yeah, you know, really nice. And I'm talking. I said, I read your review, and I've done some research. I've found out everything you said sounds to be exactly right, and we dropped the ball and everything else. And I said, I really, really want to help you here and make this right. And she's like, well, I'm already thinking about, or I already hired another company. And I'm like, stop them, please.
Yeah, don't pay somebody else.
Let me make this right.
The ones that screwed up. Yeah.
Let me make this right. And I went out there. We put our A game on fixing this lady's stuff, and we did, and we fixed it right. It was all, you know, best job we ever did when we left, right? You know, and she changed it to a 4-star review, and she asked me, because I was actually there when she's I'm gonna hop on my computer right now, and we were in her living room, and she says, what would you like me to say? I said, well, I don't care what you say. And she said, well, she goes, I'm not going to change it to 5-star. I'm going to keep it a 4. And I said, that's perfect. But do this. Don't delete what you first wrote. I want people to see that you are a 1-star. So start off by saying you're a 1, because when she does redo it, it erases what she does. So she had to delete it. So I said, please say that we tell the story. And she did. And it was great. And I bet you that year, because it was still in the top, 20 or 50 reviews, we probably had 50 people say they called us because of that review. That bad review got me more business than probably 10 5-stars.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And I mean, you don't want customers that expect you to deliver a steak when they pay for a Big Mac. You never want the customer that expects perfection. That's like the worst thing in the world. Debbie Sardone, who's a home cleaning consultant. Actually, when I'm down by you in Dallas in 2 weeks, I'm going to her like convention for her home cleaning consulting thing. She made a point. I saw her talk late January, and she had said, make sure your brand promise is not based on quality or like an end deliverable, because, or if it is, it has to be something that your worst employee can deliver on their worst day. If you make a promise based on an end result or a level of quality, you're almost always gonna fuck yourself, because your worst employee cannot do that on their worst day. And so in her cleaning business, she has a nonprofit that she started called Cleaning for a Reason, where they provide free home cleanings for cancer patients. And that is her brand promise. Her brand promise is, we clean for cancer patients. Their worst employee can do that on their worst day. And that's why people call them, right? They don't call them, like they send people into people's homes. They have, employees that probably, screw stuff up or break stuff in people's homes or deliver a bad service. All of that happens. We're running businesses. We can't execute on perfection. And that was like, it was so simple. But when she said that, I was like, no shit. It's like simply brilliant. Never try to promise something that your worst employee can't deliver on their worst day. It just blew my mind. It was so spot on.
It's so funny because in the chimney industry, we say no mess cleaning guaranteed. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I was at a convention or an expo. I'm sitting around smoking a cigar, drinking a beer with 5 or 6, maybe 10 other sweep companies, and we all started to have our nightmare stories of how bad we've sooted houses with our vacuums, or how a chimney came down and sooted the house, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and every one of us had in our advertising, no mess cleaning guaranteed. That may be after we made the mess and we have to clean it up, but we have a no mess guarantee.
Yeah.
And honestly, really, to that point, I thought I was the only guy in the whole world that ever in the chimney industry ever stood at a house. Like that doesn't really happen. And they're all like, shit, I've done it 50 times. I've done it 3 times. I've done it 10 times.
Yeah, I did it 3 times this week. It was a bad week.
You're not even a chimney company if you haven't done it at least once, type stuff. And it's like, okay, shit.
Yeah, so in the pressure washing space, I hear that all the time, because you're throwing bleach around and you're like washing people's roofs and washing their siding, and different surfaces need different concentrations of bleach. Man, like, you're going to burn plants. You're going to just burn somebody's lawn out. You're going to burn their $5,000 Japanese whatever bush. Like, if you haven't totally destroyed somebody's landscaping, you're not cleaning houses. You're not power washing houses right. It's just going to happen. It's impossible.
I tried staining fences once as a side gig. This is 25 years, probably 22 years ago, to be honest. A couple years into it, in a chimney company. I saw what happened was I was doing some work on a guy's chimney, and I saw this fence company come in there and just charge a shit ton of money and did a staining on a fence. And I'm like, well, shit, that doesn't look that hard. So I decided I'd start advertising that I could stay in a fence. Mind you, it's another one of these stories that if you get to know me, I started a business with never doing the business. It looked easy, And so I actually got this bid. This guy had an 8-foot privacy fence. It had the wood molding all over it, crown molding, just beautiful fence. And he was about to hire me, literally over other companies. I'm just a good salesman. And the guy goes, and I don't want to see one bit of stain on my grass. And I went and looked at him and go, there's no fucking way I can do that. Because I know when I'm done, 4 foot of grass out, it's going to be stained on it.
In 3 months after the grass grows and you mow it a few times, I guarantee there will be no stain left in the grass.
Exactly. But I mean, how could you spray or even roll and not get any stain on grass? I mean, I've done my own fence since then. And I try. So when I did my own fence, when we went to move to this new house we built, I was okay. I'm gonna see if I could honor that guy's request. I was gonna see if I could do it. Not a chance in hell I could. There's no way I could have done it. I mean, wind. I mean, just you have a malfunction and it clogs the sputter up. You go, oh shit! You know, there's so many things go wrong when you're using a spray gun and stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, there's no way. I'm glad I didn't take that job on because he would have never paid me. No way.
Yeah.
So, anyway, wow. Okay, Dan, we're about at our time. This has been awesome, and so we're gonna try to hook up next few days. Have a beer out in Vegas, right?
I think so. I get in like midday tomorrow, and I leave sometime Thursday morning. So we got tomorrow night, Tuesday, Wednesday to catch
Tuesday
up.
night. Tuesday night. Let's see where we're at and see what we can do to kind of go from there. And but guys, that's Dan Platta. Tell us how to get. Tell us what you do. I mean, there's a reason why we're on here. What do you do for blue collar businesses?
So I'm the bookkeeping guy. So like I said, I'm a business nerd, I'm a finance nerd, and as a result of having all of our businesses, one of the other businesses we started was a bookkeeping business. So like you said at the beginning, we're all about getting people good data to run their business. Now, the one thing I disagree with is, yeah, there's like forward metrics and you should be operating in the future. But at one point in our conversation today, you also acknowledge that there's data from the past that helps you make better decisions in the future. And I think you got to look at both. You're measuring KPIs and how far out are you sold and do you have enough sales for the production that you have? But when you're running your business model and knowing what to invest in next and what to market next, and should you rent this location or should you throw a holiday party for your employees? Do you have it in the budget? Are you running the right business model? Are you spending money in the right places? I think bookkeeping comes in really handy. So
that's what I was saying when I said when you make the yearly decisions. Looking back is actually when you make the yearly decisions. But when I'm running my day-to-day weekly to know what I'm going to make the decisions of the week and of the production, knowing what I did last month generally isn't going to help me because we're seasonal. Most businesses have that too. So like a window washing company is not going to make the same decisions in January that they do in May. Right? May's not helping any in January either. So I mean that's what I was kind of meant by that.
There's some decisions that I think we end up making, like maybe monthly, like cost of goods sold types of things. Like, do we need to go find a different vendor for this, or should we pay our people a little bit differently? Right? We can't like overhaul our whole business processes and systems. We usually wait till the slowest time of the year to do that. But like marketing, we can tweak throughout the year, right? Recruiting, we might tweak throughout the year. Some like employee related stuff we might tweak. So when we do bookkeeping, I always like to say, we don't do bookkeeping for your CPA. Bookkeeping is not a tax-related activity. It's a business owner-related activity. It's a finance thing. It's to help the business owner make better decisions. Yeah, like your CPA is going to love it because their job's a lot easier, but they can do your taxes with bank statements and a box full of receipts. They don't need you to do bookkeeping so that they can do your taxes. If they tell you that, they're just trying to get you to do bookkeeping to make their lives easier. It's for them. It's not for you, right? If your CPA is doing your books, chances are they're not reporting it in a way that helps you run your business better. They're just maybe sending you reports so they can say they did something, but really the bookkeeping is for them to do their jobs easier, and it's a way for them to charge you more. When we do bookkeeping, it's all about our client being able to have better data, make better decisions. Better decisions means they make more money, then they grow their business faster and have more freedom, and that's what it's all about. So we do bookkeeping for home service businesses. We've got kind of a rhyme and a reason for it, and I won't bore you all with that, but if you're out there and you need bookkeeping help, our website is yourblueskies.com. You can check us out there. You can check us out on the Bookkeeping Beer and BS Facebook group, YouTube channel, or podcast. Just, all the places. Search Bookkeeping Beer and BS. I don't know anybody else that's crazy enough to have a show called that. That likes bookkeeping and likes drinking beer as much as I do. Like I said, I'm from Wisconsin. I don't know how you get out of that, but so go check it out. It's not as much bookkeeping as you think. It's more about making good decisions and running your business better so you can have more freedom.
Okay, guys. So we're going to end it here, but I am going to put Dan's information in the description of the podcast on all the channels that I'm on and broadcasting. So if you want to get a hold of Dan, you'll have the information there. So guys, thanks for getting in trouble with Dan, and we'll have a great day. Bye.